So kinda, it's welfare. EQIP is welfare. Direct price subsidy is welfare. Crop insurance, cost sharing is welfare. Like it's all welfare, but not really in the sense of you wouldn't need the welfare if you got your act together kind of welfare, because farming's economics is set up real weird. And it's because of the way farming started in this country. Like this goes back hundreds of years. Let me see if I can explain it. So when white people came here, the land with native people was kind of like this. There weren't like hard boundaries. It was more like shades of territory that kind of blended into each other, but nothing really belonged exclusively to anybody. Things didn't have exclusive uses, stuff like that. Like it was very, I don't know, you could call it chaotic, but it worked. Especially for a society that didn't have private property or poverty. Just a pig my wife drew, by the way. Okay, but when white people came along, they did this. They said the land looks like this. It's going to be a grid, okay, with plots. That's why surveying was so important in the early colonies. That's why George Washington was a surveyor. All right, so now we're going to call this, that's the east, okay? This south, okay? This north, and you're never going to guess. It's west. Now, the powers that be knew they had this grid of land that they needed to find a way to extract resources from. And they needed to put people on it, their own people that they controlled and were in hock to them. So what do? You have somebody like, let's say, the King of England, who claims to own all of this, even though he ain't never seen it, don't know what's on it, don't know who lives there, and don't care. And then what he'll do is he'll tell somebody like a George Washington and his buddies, look at him. You can have hold on now. You can have this here. You can have this. You can have this. See this? I can't draw a straight line. I'm trying to do it through the phone. What the hell I look like? I ain't no artist. I'm not my wife. All right, anyhow, damn, the lenses done changed on me. I tell you, the lenses don't change on me. Anyhow, he gonna give him this whole big old parcel of land here. Call it several 100,000 acres. This is a thing that you call a patent. That's what you call a patent, okay? And so the King of England will give this to George Washington and his friends. Let's call it the Ohio Company of Virginia. And he'll say, you can have this here, okay? As long as you get some poor, desperate, palmetto colored people to farm it, okay? They need to settle in these places and farm so that we can claim possession of it, so we can do exploration for minerals and high value stuff. So they say, okay. So they send over, let's say you have a little parcel here. Let's call it maybe 100. Damn it. Call it maybe 100 acres. And this one filled in by an Irish. And then maybe this one over here, this one filled in by a German. Okay? And then this one right next door, they call that about 30 acres. Okay, that parcel there, that's going to be filled in by a poor ass Englishman. Okay, so eventually this patent is populated by various types of poor whites. And then what happens over time is this one here dies of the dysentery and the typhoid fever. So this one right here occupies not only his land, but gets some of the land in between. So now he's consolidated. Now he's a little bit bigger. Okay, and then this one right here, Seamus O'Houlihan drank himself to death. And so his neighbor, Otto von Mercedes, he takes over this little piece of land right here, and the farms begin to consolidate. Okay, now all this is happening in a place that was at the time called the Northwest Territory, and there were already people living here. And then one day there was a rebellion called Pontiac's Rebellion, and this happened in the middle of a world war that a bunch of white people were having with each other, and it spread all over the planet like the clap. And then Pontiac's Rebellion created a problem. So the King of England said, all right, bet, my bad, I'm gonna draw this line, right, chill. And we promised that we ain't gonna do nothing over here no more. And George Washington, who had a patent to this whole thing, said, huh? And then the King of England said, yeah, what? And then George Washington said, oh, we ain't fitting to have this line. We're gonna create America. See, America was designed to get rid of this line, because he said, I'll be damned if you ain't gonna let me have all the land that you said that I could have, because it's my land now, bitch. All right, now fast forward 100 years later, we're going to steal some more land to the west. We're going to call this the Louisiana Purchase. We're going to send some more poor-ass white people to squat on these squares that are exactly 160 acres each. It is called the Homestead Act. Okay, so over here, you got some more poor-ass white people. Just like up here before, except now you also have your occasional free black and spinster lady. So what happens? Oh, your black ass accidentally got shot by your neighbor. So now this neighbor just done took, not only did he take Indian land to begin with, but now he done took this Negro land right here. Now, thank you very much, and this belonged to me. And then this one decided, I don't want to bust saw anymore. He go back over to the city where things make sense. He gone. So now here come his neighbor, and while he at it, he gonna take that land right there, right here. Okay, now look, he gonna take this here too, and look, now I got me a bigger farm. Got a much bigger farm over the course of a couple of generations, maybe. Got me the farm because I started off with that free land, and this pattern continues. That like they keep, they might get some more land over here, and then eventually, this boy right here gets shot in his ass because he was part of Custer's army, and so he gone. And so, we're going to take your land. We're going to take your land. Delicious, sensible, propitious land. And now this all belonged to German von Krautheimer. And then, they're just going to keep on consolidating and getting bigger and bigger over the years. So anyhow, this system of patents where a rich dude would claim a whole mess of land, but then need some poor, desperate people to go settle it. This is how farmland came to be farmland in the United States. There was always a free grab, which said that in exchange for, say, 160 acres, or maybe in exchange for 30 acres, you're going to go out here into what at the time was the frontier, and you're going to deal with, let's say, the Mohawk, or the Cheyenne, or the Comanche, or the Sioux, or the Ojibwe, kind of up in this there. And if you can survive that, and the storms, and the disease, and subsistence farming, and being isolated, and mostly on your own, then congratulations, you may have 160 acres of somebody else's house. That free land, that free 160 acres, and sometimes multiple hundreds of acres that lots of times didn't have to be bought because, again, your neighbor got shot. Oh, the title got lost. Sure happens. That is the basis for, that's the economic basis for farming that has had a half-life of hundreds of years, extending into now. So in a standard business, it's revenue minus expenses equals profitability equals your ability to keep on doing whatever the hell it is you're doing. For farming, it is not. With farming, it was a game where generations ago, it was, you can have this huge item on your balance sheet, this 160 acres, 320 acres, however many acres it is. You can have that on your balance sheet. That can be the source of your wealth as long as you can farm it, as long as you can stay alive while you're farming it, as long as you can keep yourself from losing too much money to keep on farming it. And the problem is that with every generation, with every consolidation, as the farms got bigger and bigger and bigger, the ability to keep doing the farming at a margin that would allow you to stay there and keep your wealth has become harder and harder and harder. This crescendoed with the Cold War, when for the first time in American history, it became a part of national security policy to have food be really abundant and cheap to give one of these to the Soviet Union and communism. This is where you have the whole Earl Butz get big or get out thing, right? Like, make farms as big as possible, everything machine harvestable, make everything cheap as hell to produce, have agribusiness, chop it up and process it into stuff that's storable and fungible and blah, blah, blah. And so you go from a farming situation that looks kind of like this at mid-century to where now the situation looks more like this. The farms have consolidated. They have just moved like an amoeba blob, just sucking up all the smaller farms into big, still family-owned farms that sell their stuff to corporations that process it into the food that we actually eat. But what happens here is a funny thing. These operations are so big, and they're producing commodities that are so like one another that the margins are super, super small, combined with the fact that you got to deal with stuff like weather, climate change, pests, fungus, etc. This makes farming an economic insanity prospect. Now, the economically smart thing for these farmers to do would be to cash out and move to a city where there's things and there's people and stuff to do. But that would create a problem for politicians back east who are now dealing with a countryside that is very accustomed to the relatively affordable food being produced by these huge farms. And not only are they accustomed to those low prices, but they're so accustomed to those low prices that now other things are starting to occupy the part of the consumer food dollar in the cities that used to be occupied by food. Things like sending your kids to college and debt payments. So every single year, it becomes very important for the politicians back east to send some sort of quote unquote welfare to these farmers to make it economically sensible for them to remain on these farms instead of selling out, dumping this land off, and moving to a city where things maybe make a little more sense. So the reason that farmer welfare has become necessary is because farming is not based on a revenue minus expenses equals profit proposition, nor is it based in any kind of socialistic or like indigenous kind of thing where it's like you farm the land to feed the people and what else would the point be? It's been because of a colonial concept of grab the land, park some people on it, and let's see what happens. So now you have this very unfortunate situation where these large farmers are basically saying, if we don't get the socialistic supports from the capital that we need to do this, then we're just going to walk. And then the food supply around the country is going to crater. That's on top of the fact that the people that own these giant farms, half of them are over the age of 60 and within the next 10 years are set to retire. So half of this land is going to be trading hands anyway, and in some cases very much being taken out of production. And one of the big problems we have is that the alternative agriculture people who are supposed to be doing this in a way that's better and more sustainable for people and the planet keep hearkening back to this kind of 18th century Thomas Jefferson tiny farm style model that doesn't make a plan for how do you go from this all of a sudden to this without everybody who isn't rich enough to be doing this or this dying in the process. Because remember, nobody's giving away plots like this anymore. For you to participate in this, you have to be able to buy this. You have to come in with enough money to get it. You can't be poor, desperate Irish German immigrant and get this anymore. You got to have cash money in your pocket, which means that unlike before, you are never going to get enough of these little things to say populate a whole landscape like this, like was done in the middle of the 19th century. And so until we figure out how to reconcile these two, which is the entire subject of my book, as well as my life's work with Blackbird Farms, we are going to be at the mercy of these people and the politicians back east who feed them with welfare.